I miss Haikyuu, which is why we're doing this. So, because the season is not going to come out for another 8 months. I don't know. I haven't checked. I'm hoping it's not going to take too long. But yeah, I decided. Well, I want to make a Haikyuu video. I've already seen all the episodes, so I can't make a reaction. And I was thinking about ideas, and I was like, well, I could have theories, but the manga already finished. So now what? So I was like, thinking about Haikyuu, going through all this stuff, and I came up with this. I was like, well, let's make a dream team. But I was like, it's gonna be kind of boring because you're gonna have like all the Olympic camp players. By the way, I haven't read the manga. I don't know anything about the manga. All I know is that there's like, I kind of know like the teams, but that's it. Just because I was really interested, I was like, oh, what happens like after nationals? Like, where does everybody go? And I know that, but I don't know like who wins what. I have no idea who like any of the because that's the fun about Haikyuu is that it genuinely feels the same as when I like watch sports. Like when I'm watching like football overseas, like European football, or when I'm watching the NBA or something like that. Like I generally have the same feeling, except it's even more like intense because I have to wait week by week for the results for a full game. It's intense. So that's my like enjoyment of Haikyuu. I know there's also like, it's a coming of age story and all that stuff. So it's fun, it's wholesome. I love that part too, but I love like how grounded it is. Like it feels like an actual like, oh, I'm actually watching sports. Damn. So the writing is impressive and it doesn't feel like it's always okay, our main characters are our main characters, they have to win. Like Karasuno always has to like make it out like in a like they always have to clutch it at the end. Like they usually don't. Well, they usually do, but sometimes they don't. So with that, I'm like, okay, it kind of builds a little bit of stake. It makes it entertaining. Like you still have, you know, Karasuno's not always stacked. They always the one thing about Karasuno is that they're all synced together so well, while other teams will have like they'll be synced up, but not as well as Karasuno, and that's usually what gives them the win. Is like they have like more trust and they're more synced with all the players in the team, the whole roster. While like some teams will have really stacked players. So I was like, okay, thinking about it, if I were to make my dream team, how am I going to do this? So I set some rules, right? Okay, so Olympic camp players, those are the players like, you have Kageyama, you have Hoshiyumi, I'm counting like anyone that's ever been in the under 19 Olympic has been chosen for that. I'm counting them as well. That counts a lot of players that would make it onto the stream team. So I'm not discounting all of them. You can't put, it's not like you can't put any of them on your team. But to make it fair, you're only allowed to. You can do this. I'll put in the comment, like put in the comments after the video is done, like what your roster would be. But I'm gonna like say like in each roster, you're only allowed to pick one Olympic camp player or an OCP, right? For alliteration, why not? So one OCP, so it can be any one of them. Any like it doesn't matter if it's a setter, so it can be Atsumu or like Kageyama, or it can be like a hitter, right? Or I don't know if there's no liberos that got picked that I'm aware of. So all I know is up to the anime. So I only know about basically all the characters up to the anime. If there's any characters that haven't been introduced yet, I'm not aware of them. So if my roster looks like, oh wait, this position should be filled by this player that's coming up, I'm like, I don't know them, so that's why they're not there. Right now we're at season 4 at this point, so Inarazaki we just beat them. Karasuno just beat them, so I'm judging it based from my knowledge from first episode up to that. So we got OCP. And then like OCP is like that spot of who you picked, so he can fit that position of like okay, you have. I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna do outside hitter like opposite hitter. I'm not gonna make it that specific in positions just because I want people to like people who you don't have to know volleyball positions that well. If you've seen the anime, you could do this. So I don't want it to be that specific. I'm not taking it that seriously. It's just for fun. But you're allowed one OCP, so one Olympic camp player, and they can fill any one of the other six positions. Those six positions being you have a wing spiker, you have a setter, you have a libero, you have an ace, wing spiker, you have a wing spiker, another one that would probably be an ace. Basically, opposite hitter and like outside hitter are both wing spikers. Just to make it simple, you have two wing spikers. You have, the setter, the libero. You have a middle blocker or just a blocker. Some kind of you need a blocker. You needed a there's so many blockers. So I was like, you need a blocker, you need a libero, you need a setter, you need a captain. That one is, I was like, I don't know how to explain it. I was like, well, captains usually can go to the setter, it can go to the hitter. So I was like, maybe I'll like say like defensive. I looked it up. It'd be like defensive specialist would be the position I'm thinking of. It's just typically because I think of Daichi, I think of another like I just think of that like basically think of it as the back line, that third player in the back line that's not the libero or isn't like I guess whoever would be there. So could be the setter, it could be uh, one of I don't know your wing spikers maybe. It wouldn't be your middle blocker, but regardless, like I mean, it's rotation. You know how volleyball works if you've seen the show. Like, it's rotation, so it doesn't really work. Positions in volleyball aren't that simple. So I'm just gonna leave it as like look at it as the main guys is just okay. You got two wing spikers, your front line, two wing spikers, and then the middle you have your middle blocker, and then you have your libero, you have your setter, and then you have like your your other defensive player. Someone that can like work around those boundaries. So those are the positions you're working with, and out of those six, you're allowed to pick one of them as an OCP. So most likely it won't be a libero because you don't know any. I don't know any liberos that are OCPs. So that's not going to happen. So going through the list, the first thing I'm not going to leave it for last to be dramatic because I feel like whoever your OCP is kind of like it judges how you build the rest of your team, and it was the first one I thought of, obviously. So okay, the OCP, there's a lot of good players. There are so many, and I'm like, I love most of them. So I was thinking to myself, okay, I gotta choose carefully here because whoever I pick, I also have to consider like, okay, if I choose a setter, now I have to worry about my offensive capabilities, right? Like, or like my defensive capabilities. If I choose, someone that's not a setter, then I have to worry about, well, is my setter going to be good enough? So there was a lot of choices in like what I had to consider. So out of OCP, I was like, okay, well, since they're top tier essentially, I need to pick someone that can just wreck house and cover all my bases as much as I can. So I chose Hoshiyumi Karai because the guy can do everything. Except for setting, as far as what we saw in the Nationals in the second half of season 4, he can block, he can jump hella high, the highest we've seen. He can he can receive. Did you see that receive when he dived in that? He did all of that. He blocked, he received, he hopped, and his offensive capabilities are right now arguably better than Hinata. So arguably because we haven't seen him like utilize that big leap technique, right? Where Kageyama's like, you need to go more like boom, let's bam or something. You know what I mean? Like they're using onomatopoeias to explain, but we haven't seen Hinata put that in there. So I say arguably, but I'm putting Hoshiyumi in because he can do all of that, right? Now, granted, OCP. Keep in mind, characters like Hinata are not OCP. So I could have picked like Kageyama and I could have picked Hinata. Except I can't because there's actually another rule, and that is it's the last one. You can't pick two players on the same team. The reason I did that is so a lot of the people in the comments will probably just put like, well, I'm just gonna pick Karasuno because Kageyama is the only OCP there, right? Like, I'm just gonna pick Karasuno. They have the best sync up, they have the best chemistry, right? The challenge of this dream team is that you can't put players that have chemistry with each other. They don't play with each other, and you have to try to make the best squad you can. By the way, you're the coach. You're not picking like a coach. You're the coach. So you're the coach. You have to pick the players that haven't played with each other, one OCP, and all the rest fill the positions that are necessary. And you have to make the best team you can. So as the coach, I was like, okay, OCP, somebody that like I thought, okay, maybe somebody like a setter that can bring out the best out of everyone would be the smartest plan. So I was like, maybe I should pick Kageyama or, Su or something, right? Or Atsumu. But I was like, maybe. Or I could be fun about this and see how far I can get if I pick one that could just carry. Hoshiumi Karai is the definition of a guy that could carry a whole team. Because while some hitters are really scary, they are sometimes stagnant. So you won't see them go be as jumpy and like, oh, block while also receive at the same time, like after one rebound or something. Like you won't see the kind of stuff Hoshiumi did in that one clip that they gave us. You won't see that from many other players at all. So I was like, I have to pick Hoshiumi. Also, by the way, Karai is such a cool name because it's Hoshiumi is his surname. So I was like, Karai is his. It was the first time I figured it out. Karai is his actual name. So I was like, it's his first name because Hinata Shoyo, like Shoyo is Hinata's first name. So, but Karai is such a cool name. I thought for a second I was like, is it Karai like from TMNT? But I was like, no, it's spelled Korai. So I was like, oh, Korai. I think, but there's like a little there's a line on top, so maybe it is pronounced Karai. I don't know, but I was like, is it pronounced the same? But I don't think it is. I think it's a different name. But regardless, I mean, they're both you know Japanese inspired, so I was like, maybe. But anyways, Oshiumi is my OCP slash. He's gonna fill in one of the wing spiker positions, so that's Hoshiumi. Now I'm gonna go on to setter, right? Because I could save setter, like I said for OCP. I could save the good stuff for later, but I think once you OCP, it explains like where your team is going the best. I feel like, and then like after that, since he's a wing spiker, you want to know well who's setting the ball to this guy, right? So I can't pick Kageyama. I can't pick Asuka. I can't pick all the good setters that are OCP because they're OCP. However, Aoba Johsai's setter, Oikawa, never made it to the Olympic camp. So technically, he's not an Olympic camp player, or not even technically at all. So he's never been an Olympic camp player in history. So he's free game. So I was like, Oikawa is top three setters in the verse. So I'm going to put him with Hoshiumi, and I think I have a destructive force. They've never played together, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, can you imagine what kind of monstrous duo? And I guarantee you they can quick attack. Those two can quick attack, 100%. There is no way you're telling me that Oikawa cannot do a quick set to Hoshiumi. I guarantee they could. Regardless, that's not the only reason I have them. Like, no one can set and bring out the best out of players as well as Oikawa, at least in the beginning of the series. It's incredible what he can do. So I was like, imagine that with what Hoshiumi can do, who is basically a Swiss Army knife. He has everything. It's just it's a match made in heaven. You can't ignore that. You can't like it was too good to resist. So I was like, okay, setter has to be Toru Oikawa. Libero. So I've done Alba Josai, and I can't go any more for Alba Josai. Libero, one of my favorite characters in the series, Nishinoya. I'm not choosing Hinata. I'm not choosing Kageyama's already like it was done from the first like from jump. I'm not picking Suki. Suki is an amazing blocker, but when I see Nishinoya, and granted he's getting power creeped. He's getting a little power creeped, and it's unfortunate. But when I see Nishinoya, the way I can't forget the way this guy receives a ball. Like the way he receives it, the technique, all of that stuff, the guts, the grit, what he brings to the back line, the aura. I'm like, no, there's no way. I'm not having any other libero besides Nishinoya. So out of all of Karasuno, I'm picking Nishinoya as my libero, which I don't think is the most controversial thing, but keep in mind that means I'm not picking Suki because Suki's on Karasuno, so I can't pick them because they have chemistry. They're on the same team. So that goes against the rules. So I have my wing spiker now, OCP, Hoshiyumi. I got one of my wing spikers. He's one of my wing spikers. I got a setter who's Oikawa. I got a libero now who's Nishinoya. And now I'm going to go to my other wing spiker, who will be kind of my ace, but arguably you could say Hoshiumi's still kind of like he would be an ace technically if he fills in like all the criteria. You'd be like, well, I mean, he has to be the ace then. But the other wing spiker, I'm going to make it Bokuto. Bokuto is one of I'd say maybe like my top three favorite characters. Yeah, top three. This guy as an outside hitter is disgusting. Now, keep in mind, outside hitter, opposite hitter, it doesn't really matter. This is just as a wing spiker, he's disgusting. Disgusting. And right now, I know he gets better, but right now in the series, it's still good. I've liked him from jump. I've always wanted Bakuto on like I wanted more from Bakuto. Like not more from him, but like more attention on Bakuto. And I'm glad that in the Nationals we're getting that. Like it's he's going through that phase, you know what I mean? Like it seems like he's slowly getting more and more gassed. Like every game he's getting more and more steam and it's like he's getting faster and faster, better and better. So Bokuto is my other wing spiker. So you got Hoshiumi and you have Bokuto and you have Oikawa setting to both of them. And then you have our libero who's Nishinoya. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And then for our middle blocker, it's not Suki, keep in mind. But our middle blocker is Kuro. I actually really like Kuro. And out of Nekoma, Kuro is not my favorite, but I like Kuro. I like Kuro a lot. I think one thing I like about Kuro and why I want him as a middle blocker is his experience and flexibility. I feel like Kuro is like Suki will be reluctantly like he's a better blocker, I would argue, but he's like almost kind of reluctant sometimes, and I'm like, it doesn't really matter because he perseveres over that anyways, and like he does better than Kuro, at least what we've seen so far. But Kuro has like this. I think it's just him being a senior. It's like he has this flexibility about him, and having a team, being that experienced in a team like Nekuma with that kind of structure, I think as a blocker is really important because when you're a blocker, and keep in mind, I'm not a volleyball expert, but when you're a blocker, you usually are lined up with another person when you're trying to block, or you're trying to line up for a receive, right? So regardless, you're always trying to sync up with another person. I think Kuro's flexibility because of Nekuma and his experience with working together as a cohesive unit, that with Oikawa would be disgusting because those two can help really bring out life out of like Hoshiumi. And keep in mind, Bakuto is a senior too, but he's kind of like he's a wild card. He's a wild card. On a good day, you're done. On a bad day, I mean, Hoshiumi and like Oikawa, Nishinoya, Kuro, they can all cover. They can all cover for that. So um, I just kind of look at it as like, okay, now you have like these two seniors, Oikawa and Kuro, and they can like, I think with those two, you have the blocker and the setter. You have those are the two positions I see like you need really flexible and like well like cohesive players that can really connect no matter how like how bad their game is right now. Like if Bakuto is having a bad day, like it doesn't matter because Kuro and Oikawa can like still bring out the best out of him. Like it doesn't matter. And Hoshiumi will like thrive with that kind of support. And Nishinoya will always he'll be fine. Like he'll cover himself. But for the last player, because we've gone through both our wing spikers. Well, I've gone through both my wing spikers. I've gone through my setter. I've gone through my libero, and I've gone through my middle blocker. Now I still have something in the back line. I have a defensive specialist slash captain, but Oikawa is a captain from experience. I would argue Oikawa. It's hard to say. I think if it was up to me as the coach, I would make this person the captain and sometimes Oikawa. It kind of depends. I would flip flop. I don't know because it's hard to say. But our final player is from Inarazaki, Shinsuke Kida. This guy impressed me so much. And it was wholesome. I loved his backstory. One of my favorites, but he's not there for the backstory. He's there because the amount of clutch receives and dives this guy made, and with such a calm demeanor, like he never loses composure. Nishinoya, as much as I love him, he's so talented and such a great libero, but he loses focus. Like now, when he's getting power creep, the pressure is getting to him, and he starts to lose focus, and he needs someone to snap him in, right? To have that on the back line is so important, and that's why I have Shinsuke Kida as the main captain, maybe. I'm not too sure. Like I said, Oikawa between Oikawa and Kida, it's kind of hard to judge who you pick as captain. I know people in the comments will go ballistic. They'll be like, "Oh no, it has to be Oikawa. How could you even like Oikawa like stands will go crazy." But I think it, personally, I'm like, if it depends on the game. It depends on the game because I think Oikawa's ego would be like hurt if I didn't make him the captain. But I think at the end of the day, Kita, even though Oikawa would be the captain, Kita would always have the atmosphere of the captain because he never loses composure. You have moments where sometimes Oikawa gets a little flustered. He gets a little flustered. Kita never gets flustered. He never gets flustered. He never loses his composure. That kind of aura, like without even saying it, he has the aura of a captain when he's on the court. So with that, I'm like, you have to be there. You have to be now. Granted, he's not as talented as anywhere close to someone like Hoshiyumi or Oikawa, especially Hoshiyumi. Hoshiyumi and Bakuto are like the most talented on the squad easily. But that's not the point, right? The point is to bring in like the best out of all these six. So out of the six positions given, out of the rules given, not having anyone on the same team, um, not having more than one player that's an Olympic camp player or has been an Olympic camp player. These players, Hoshiyumi, Oikawa, Nishinoya, Bakuto, Kuro, and Kita are all the six that I believe would make it to. They crush nationals. They would crush nationals. I think if these six went into nationals, they're coming out with a trophy. Easy. But I'm really curious what your guys' team would be, and I would love to have a little back and forth, just a little debate to see like, okay, do you think your team could beat my team? Do you genuinely believe that your team could beat my team? I'll be honest, my team's not perfect. I know it's not perfect. I could have had more time to spend on this to find the most broken team I could. I'm like, oh, I'll pick like the best player from each team, the best I can to fill in all positions. You know what I mean? But again, with the rules, I try to make it grounded where it's hard to do that because if you pick the best player from each team, you're most likely going to have the Olympic camp player team, the Olympic camp players, right? All of them on your team. You're probably going to have, I mean, it's just kind of a no-brainer. You're going to have like six of them are going to be players that have made it to Olympic camp or should have been. So it's a little inconsistent, if you do it like that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep it nice where it's like you can only pick one, okay, and I'll give you like a list of all the Olympic camp players. So I may have missed some, but I'll give you a list like right here. So for anyone wondering in the comments of like, okay, well then who counts? I mean, it's just anybody that has actually been in it. I may have missed some people. If you know they were in the Olympic camp, you know not to pick them. All right, if you already picked another one. So just to keep it fair, that's it. Also, we're not gonna count anything after nationals. You can if you want, but I mean like it's kind of like if your team is like everyone outside of nationals, that means they're more grown up, they're more skilled, more talented. So obviously your team is going to win. It's like adults versus kids. It's not fair, right? So keep it within like the timeline, right? Keep it within the timeline, and we'll be safe, right? We'll be calm. It'll be because, like I said, I don't think my team could beat every single person's team. I think there's definitely teams you can make with these rules that could be way better than this. But based on what I have, one thing I didn't mention, and I kind of still am wondering if maybe this was a bad idea, was picking Hoshiyumi. As I don't regret it, it's one of those things where it's like maybe picking a setter would have been a better call. I'm not too sure because I look at Hoshiumi in this team, and then I see Bokuto, and I'm thinking like, well, they're both great. I feel like I maybe could have just had Bokuto, and then I could have had like a better setter. I don't know. I love Oikawa though, but I'm just saying like Oikawa as a senior and his potential, it still has more to grow. But I'm just saying, it's kind of capping. It's kind of capping, and it's tough. So I don't know. I kind of see it like that, and it makes me question a little bit. But I still love this team. I love this team. If I had to coach this team. If I went in as a coach in nationals and I had this squad of six, I'd be comfortable. I'd be very comfortable. So yeah, I mean, put it down in the comments what your, two wing spikers would be, what your setter would be, what your libero would be, what your blocker would be. It doesn't have to be, it probably is middle blocker though, but like, yeah, what your blocker would be, who your defensive specialist is. If you want to make a slight twist, go ahead in terms of positions. You can have two setters. It doesn't matter. You can have two setters. Like I said, volleyball, it's the positions, they're not that, like, it's not that serious. Like, because it's rotation based, and you have like sometimes you have two setters on the same court, and two people that usually play. You can have people play multiple positions, right? That's just the way volleyball works. So don't look at it as like, oh, I have to have one setter, two wing spikers. It's like, it doesn't work like that. I'm just trying to give you a generalized idea of the positions. Just remember the rules that should probably be kept if you're making these teams, unless you just don't care and you just want to make like, oh, this would be the best team in Haikyuu ever. I'd be like, okay, yeah, actually, you're right. That could still be fun too. But just keep in mind, if you are going to do this, the main important thing is that you keep only one Olympic camp player and one player from each team. So there's no unfair chemistry because if you had someone like Hinata, who's not an Olympic camp player, and then you have your setter be Kageyama, I mean, like obviously you're gonna do pretty damn well. So it's meant to destroy those kinds of things, right? Like the unfair duos and stuff like that. It just keeps it more interesting that way. But if you want to be like, oh well, I'm gonna make it so I'm allowed one duo, I'd be like, okay, fine, one duo of like two players that are on the same team, fine. If that's what you want to do, go ahead. But you're kind of cheating. That's what I'm saying. So and you're the coach, so you don't have to pick a coach. So those are the only rules that stand by. I mean, if you want to pick a coach, you're like, I don't feel comfortable being the coach. I'm gonna put this person as the coach. You'd be like, okay, cool. But it's just like the way I looked at it, I was like, should I be like, oh, you pick your coach too? But then I was like, Haikyuu doesn't really highlight their coaches. They do, but they don't highlight them as much. So I was like, just make it simple. You're the coach. You decide who the players are. There you go. So as long as they're not from the same team and you only have one Olympic camp player, you can put down whatever team you want as long as obviously they're not, past nationals. You can put whatever team you want, what order, down below. I mean, if you want to make a team of full setters, you could do that. A team of full blockers, a team of all liberos. I don't know how that one's going to work, but a team of all like aces. Every ace from every team, I'd sure go ahead. I mean, you know, have fun with it. Have fun with it. But this is my dream team. I'd love to know what your dream team is. If you guys like this kind of concept and you like the video, there's a button for that. There's a button for that. You hit that. I don't know which side it is because it might be mirrored. I'm not too sure, but it's down below. The thumbs up button? Yeah, you click that one. You click that one if you like it. If you like it, it's called a like button. You click that one. Not the dislike one. If you don't like my team, sure, go ahead. I mean, I can't control what you do. Click the dislike if you want, but I'm just saying, like button, it's down there. Comments, it's down there too. Subscribe button is for if you want more Haikyu stuff. Because the season's not going to come out for a very long time. But I'll think of another Haikyu idea. If you guys like this and you subscribe, and you hit the bell icon, you never know. One day you'll be like, all right, I subscribed to him. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. And then, like, watch, like 2 weeks later, no promises, but you never know. Like, something might happen. It's like, oh, shoot, you need another Haikyuu one. Oh, this idea is kind of cool. Wow, I'm so glad I subscribed and hit the bell button. See? Like, think about that hypothetical. Doesn't that sound great? Like, it sounds pretty cool to me. Like, you should definitely click this. Don't smash it. All right, don't smash the subscribe button. because that's not how that works, right? You use your mouse. Okay, so I'll give you a little tutorial. All right, you have your little mouse. Okay, you scroll the little arrow, you scroll that to the red box, subscribe box. You click that, and then when you click it, it's going to be gray, and then you're going to have a little bell on the right. You're going to click that too. Okay, so when you do those two things, and you click like, you don't have to put a comment if you don't want to. But and then you click like, subscribe, bell, once you got all that stuff, and you watch the video. Watch the video again. And then one more time, and then you can go. Alright? Cool. So uh thinking yeah, how to I don't know. Like I'm pretty sure Haikyuu is one of those series that has a lot of like potential for different kinds of ideas. So I'll do my best. Like I said, if you guys do enjoy this stuff, I will try and do my best when I see the results to come up with something else that's just as interesting. Um, who knows? Maybe I'll do uh, like top, best offensive players, like, or I could put like, oh, this spiker versus this spiker, who's the better spiker? Spiker? Hitter. What am I talking about? You know what I mean? I don't know. I'll go to my drawing board that's totally in the corner and I'll like come up with something. But in the meantime, see you guys later. Take care.